we are a trade association dedicated to advocating on behalf of seasonal employers. So whether that's landscapers, seafood processors, reforestation, hospitality, the whole gambit. Anyone that has a true seasonal need and needs seasonal workers, and we have a very strong economy right now, and in a strong economy, seasonal employers are having a much more difficult time finding an adequate amount of labor. And so that's, if you look at a chart of the H-2B program, there's been a direct correlation in demand for the H-2B program with the economy improving. And these employers are trying to do it the right way, the legal way, and unfortunately there's an artificial cap of 66,000 visas, and the employers going to be on this panel today have been capped out previously, one this year, one in a previous year, because they can speak to that experience. And there's a myth out there that employers are trying to bypass U.S. workers to intentionally hire foreign H-2B workers, and that could not be more false. And we will get into that, and we also have Dr. Stephen Bronars here has done quite a bit of economic research on the economic impact of the program. But I want to start out with one of our foremost champions, whose district is the 1st District of Maryland, goes out to the Eastern Shore. He represents a lot of seafood processors, but not only seafood processors, but also a lot of landscapers too. Danielle Bane from Quality One, speaking as a constituent of Congressman Harris, and he has been fighting this for years and years and years. And I hope that we are making progress, and he's seeing some more support, but we're continuing to try to grow that support. We're hoping to get a permanent fix, and we're thankful for his support. And so he's going to give a few opening remarks, and we're going to have to go ahead and get started with the panel. So please come, Congressman.
Sure. No, thank you very much. Thanks. And thanks everyone for being here and wanting to learn about the subject. Look, I was a physician in my regular life. I knew nothing about H-2B visas when I came to Congress, but I do represent the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Those of you, how many of you visit the Eastern Shore? How many of you eat crab from the that's called the Eastern Shore? Okay, everybody likes the crab, right? Well, those crab pickers, 50 years ago were all Americans. They were all local. They were local to the usually the lower and middle shore. And over time, the number of Americans who have the skill or the desire to pick those crabs is decreased. Whereas now it's about 1/3 to 1/2 of the crab pickers are Americans. The rest, if you want to have the crab and keep for instance, our watermen, our restaurants, a lot of our industry and business, we depend on having temporary foreign workers. Again, these are jobs. The crab season. Those of you who are from around here, it's not the whole year. It's only the summer months. And our goal for American workers, and the goal for workers in my district, for Americans in my district, is to get them a full-time job. These are not full-time jobs. These are temporary jobs where the workers come here. When you can't find American jobs, and as you'll hear, you have to advertise. You have to try to get Americans to work here. Only if you can't, then you can apply into this program, and you have to pay what amounts to the prevailing wage to those workers who come from overseas. So in essence, it's because you can't find American workers to do these jobs. And the rules are pretty strict, and those who participate in the program know that if they don't comply with those rules and their workers, for instance, come here and stay, they're penalized. So the program is fairly carefully set up, and as it was just mentioned, in a time of complete employment, we basically have full employment in this country, it becomes very, very hard to find temporary workers. And those workers, every worker, for instance, who picks a crab in my district, supports many Americans who basically have full-time jobs, because it keeps those restaurants open all year round. It provides the jobs for the waiters and the waitresses, the people who drive the trucks for these seafood companies, the watermen who are also in the seasonal industry and who depend. If they can't get those crabs picked, they're out of business all year round. They're out of business because they can't choose to fish and crab in the winter. So the fact that we need to keep these jobs filled, and I'm just using that industry as an example, keeps a lot of American jobs in place. And again, the jobs that they support actually are usually even higher paying. Most of you may or may not know, but those truck drivers who drive that product to the market, they're getting paid pretty well. So it's essential to the economy. They support a lot of American jobs. And again, I wouldn't support it if I wasn't certain that this program actually is good for the American economy and good for my district and good for the American workers in my district who seek full-time employment but who really aren't going to take a temporary job like this. So with that, again, thank you for coming here and becoming educated about how important this is. And again, out of the tens and tens of, a couple of 100 million jobs in this country. We're talking about 100,000. That's all. But these are critical jobs that won't be that Americans will not take this job. And we have industries like the landscaping industry or like the seafood processing industry, the tourism industry, those of you who go to Ocean City, dependent upon H-2B visa workers. Again, temporary jobs that support a lot of American jobs. So thank you very much for inviting me to kick off the discussion. And if any of you have any questions about it, I've got Tim, my legislative director here. Contact our office. You got questions, we'll walk you through understanding this program and how important it is. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's not a better spokesman for this program that understands it better than Congressman Harris, and he is going to be a key fighter to achieve permanent cap relief as we work through this Congress, and we're hopeful to get some permanent cap relief this Congress. But the reason for you're here today is a discussion on the challenges seasonal businesses face with U.S. worker recruitment. You could go to the gambit from jail release programs to shelters to in-country domestic worker recruitment. I know there's one think tank that says, no, we need a domestic guest worker program. We don't need to bring any foreigners. We need to recruit workers from around the country and bring them in. One of the panelists has done exactly that and can tell you exactly what the results of that were. So it is just it's a falsehood that they are bypassing U.S. workers. So we will get into that, and we are pleased to be partnering with the Niskanen Center, a think tank here in D.C. that does excellent work primarily on immigration and labor issues, because this is a non-immigrant program. It's not an immigration program. And he will be moderating, Matthew LaCourte come up, and he will be moderating the panel, and we're pleased that you're partnering with us on this. So thank you so much. Yep.
Hi everyone, how are you? Thanks again for coming. If I could call our panelists up to our panel, that would be great. I think our economist is running a little bit late. Here he is. I was going to say, such gorgeous weather that we're having outside. Nice and cool in here, though. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. My name is Matthew LaCourte. I'm the Government Affairs Manager for Immigration Policy at the Niskanen Center, a think tank that's based here in Washington, D.C. We work on a range of issues. Immigration and climate issues are our two main issues. We also work on regulatory affairs and some other work as well. We are delighted to be joining with the Seasonal Employment Alliance for this panel. Policy experts, and really happy for all of your attendance here today. The Seasonal Employment Alliance, SEA, was founded in 2017 as the successor to the Small and Seasonal Business Legal Center, and focuses on grassroots advocacy to communicate to Congress the critical offices. Had meetings today with some members of SEA, and we have two SEA members with us on the panel today. Before I introduce our panelists, I'm going to give a little background on the H-2B visa. I think the Congressman did a really great job in outlining, and then I'll hand it over to our panelists. So the H-2B is a temporary employment visa that's granted to seasonal non-agricultural workers for landscaping companies, things of that sort. The visa has an annual cap of $66,000, and that's broken up into both halves of the fiscal year, so $33,000 in the first 6 months, $33,000. And they must prove in their petition that there are not enough U.S. workers who are willing, qualified, and able to do the work, and that this work is specifically temporary in nature. In the last couple fiscal years, this 66,000 cap has just simply not been enough, and the Department of Homeland meet the demand. So while the program maintains robust bipartisan support and still a trend towards encouraging U.S. employers to do more to hire American workers. And so this is what we're going to explore here today. We'll talk about the issues that face U.S. employers. The program actually reduces opportunity and reduces wages for American workers. Our first speaker is going to be Dr. Steve. the economics department at the University of Texas and in public policy, as his commentary has been featured Forbes to Bloomberg. He has earned his PhD and his MA from the University of Chicago. Full-time and part-time American workers. Danielle has managed the company for 20 years with her husband. She is a wife, mother, and grandmother. 34 years, and his business handles athletic fields, golf courses, and some other recreational construction. He is located in St. Louis, and he has 18 employees that are American. Ask a few questions, and then we'll kick it over to the audience. So if you guys have questions, either write those down. Don't our panelists questions on your mind. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive right in. That you completed about a specific state and the H-2B program in that state.
Okay, thank you very much. I will just dive right in and say that I think this program, it's a very limited program. Their services. Probably the biggest industry that relies on the true, and I'll talk on, but a lot of times program in hospitality, especially in Martha's Vineyard and other places like that, up along the coast. Enough residents to take those jobs. So the workers are going to come in from landscaping. One of the big things that has happened is that we back in the day, back in like the late 70s, teenagers. Teens were about 10% of the third of landscaping workers. Until they went to summer school, they did other things to help. Industries where there's a big in those areas, so they're going to have to come in from somewhere else, and some does involve dealing with it is certainly more of a last resort than your is so small. A lot of the skills that we are associate with high paying U.S. labor force that have a high school degree or less, which is over idea. What it can do is it can help is always on jobs that the temporary seasonal workers be able to tell you that it's very hard to find U.S. workers willing and able to do the benefits to other employees. To not let this happen is like saying that a product any kind of increase in this cap prevailing wage for all places. That is not going to be an accurate an area where there are very few people doing that work. Patients in 500 different labor market areas. I worked for a client in but it's a very opaque system. There's no way and sometimes it's prohibitively overall, where it's more like a third. We asked the employers how many were those numbers. That doesn't even really matter how big those. Doing is saying if somebody was here in a previous year in the second year and not let's not, if you're going to limit I'm happy to answer more.
Workers and what
because I can sit here and tell you opportunity to share what business. Uh, out at $1,000 to find $100 flying. Across the country, all the way from only ones that are with us today. You're part-time. As a personal favor, something guy. without them,